Alright, so in the last video I showed you guys how to make a selection using a variety of tools. Now I want to show you how to modify them. You can modify any selection really with a couple of option menus there are. So first we're going to make that a selection of the turkey. If you go up to select after you've made a selection, a lot of these that were previously grayed out will be available to you once you've made that selection. Right now I've selected the white background, but what I really want to select is the turkey, so I'm going to inverse the selection. You can see the ants, the marching ants, the selection area is marching around the turkey itself and not also the white border. So we've got that. Right now you could cut it out and paste it in, and now we would have the turkey on its own layer, movable and ready for some sort of collage. However, you can see when I cut this out, there is this little bit of silver platter that's left over. The image is anti-alias, so these pixels are in transition between the platter and the background, or maybe the tolerance wasn't high enough to get all those pixels that we wanted. And you can see when we zoom in, they're not actually selected. It might be close, or it might not be good enough. And so if it's not good enough, what you can do is go up here to select and then modify. You can click smooth, for instance, and it'll ask you for a sample radius. You can say 6 pixels. We're going to say 50. And you can see it really ironed that out as it concerns the platter edge. But it also totally neglected and rounded over the acute and obtuse angles that any objects that kind of jut out present to Photoshop. So we will go modify smooth, and we'll do 3 pixels. We'll click OK, and you can see that might be a good balance. It smoothed out some of the rougher edges of the platter. It does add a couple of pixels here and there anytime there's any acute or obtuse angles, but that might be one way to solve kind of a jagged edge in Photoshop. Another thing you can do is expand. Maybe you didn't quite get all the pixels you wanted. You can say expand by 10. That's extreme again, but you can see what it does. If you're really concerned about getting all these anti-aliased pixels, you can do 3 pixels, click OK. Maybe that's too many. That might give us enough to place this on a white background without any sort of lack of anti-aliasing, any sort of hard edge. You can combine that. The other thing that's worth mentioning, there's the inverse of that. You can contract. Of course, it yields the same results. It's our original selection. There's also feather, which we can do 10 pixels. It's hard to tell now, but when we cut this out and paste it, you can see anything that is outside that selection area starting to get feathered. It contracts 10 pixels all the way around, so these parts of the image that jut out get feathered more and more. If we were to put this on a black background, of course, it would be much more noticeable. It of course keeps the white pixels where it feathered it. Creates kind of an ugly glow, but depending on what you're going for, that might be helpful. If you were to throw this on, say, a white background, you would never know. So, those are some ways to modify the image area. You can also save the image area. So if we were to, let's go back a few. Here's a selection. We can save our selection down here. You can give it a name. It creates a new channel We'll talk a little bit in class as to what a new channel actually does, but just know that you can find it on the channels palette. We'll say turkey outline. Over here there's turkey outline, and you can select this. You can see this becomes red as a mask. It's a nod to something called RubyLith. You used to manually have to create these channels, these masks. When you select only that turkey outline, it gives you a binary split of what is selected and what isn't. The nice thing about saving a channel is you can say, we're going to save this selection, circle. Here it is over here in our channels, and then we can come back and load a selection, turkey outline, there it is, and then we can also load our circle, and we can add it to our selection, subtract it from our selection, or intersect with the selection. So if we add it to our selection, oops, there it is, it's now added. So you can create compound selections, you can subtract, you can intersect, there's a variety of things you can do to that, but that way you can work with an image not having to worry about needing to make this turkey outline several times. You can modify it over and over again. You can try a version where you feather the edges, you can try a version where you have contracted the edges or smoothed the edges to see what yields the best result without fearing losing your original core selection. So that can be really helpful. Hopefully all of these are clear now, and you can kind of proceed to processing your images knowing what's available to you.